All right, I'm up.
All right, okay, don't fall over. Go ahead, you.
Hey, welcome back to Me Theory. Chad here, and today I'm going to be discussing a recent attack that went by unnoticed by myself. I first heard of it because it, in a weird way, it popped up in my feed. Within an unrelated video, they just threw this clip in there. Really, and I'll show you that clip here in a second. What happened was, evidently, a few days ago, the Prime Minister of Japan, Kishida, was at a public venue and came under direct attack. Why this hasn't been more in my feed, I can't even explain it, because usually I track the stuff pretty close. So I figured I'd just throw it up and let's go over the footage. Now what I have here is NHK World. That's their national news, or one of their national news syndicates, reporting on it in English, thankfully. As I'm flapping my gun, so I'll let it buffer on up, and let's just see what he has to say about it. As you see here in the screen in the background, it's actual video. You do have some blurs here. I'll talk to that in a second. But here we go.
A man suspected of throwing an improvised explosive at
gray
Prime
backpack.
Minister Kishida Fumio was sent to prosecutors on Monday. The incident occurred while Kishida was visiting a fishing port in Saturday to support a candidate from his party in an upcoming by-election. Kimura Ryuji was detained after allegedly lobbing an apparent
Pipe
bomb toward Kishida as he...
What you can make out here are the end caps on the tube and what appears to be a wire wrapped around it with a loose tail exposed. Not certain how he was planning on igniting these things, if that's just a straight up fuse. But that coiled wire around the tube itself, I think he had the cap drilled with his cap, blasting cap initiator, through the hole, and had done that ahead of time and then screwed the lid tight, which in turn turned that wire or fuse tight against the body, spiraling around it. It's actually going the correct direction for tightening a threaded cap onto the pipe. There is the target. That's the Prime Minister. His back is turned to the crowd, and as you see here, there's not many people standing out in that open area. Now, this is honestly like a photo op of sorts. There are people standing to the side, out of the way. You can see down here in my arrow, a black object. It's what appears to be a briefcase. It's not. And in the hand. And this man's back, on the other side of this man, is the body man, or the protection agent in charge of physically protecting their prime minister. Whereas the other security officers or agents, they're hard to pick out. Now, why this entire corner shot is blurred out is interesting, because they don't blur anybody else out. The agents that you see and the officers, they're not blurring them out. They don't blur out the president. They don't blur out the attacker, but there's a couple places in here that they're blurring somebody out, which is notable. They don't want somebody's presence there known.
He was about to give a speech.
Listen.
The device didn't explode until about a minute later. It went off with a loud bang, creating a pall of smoke and causing...
So they already had the guy on the ground. People had pushed away. And it had been a minute that thing was laying on the ground before it went off. So it sounds like the bomb maker, he had a miscalculation there somehow.
minor injuries to a police officer and at least one spectator. Police believe it was a pipe bomb.
Now you can see in that last frame, concealed duty belt, most likely just a dress belt with a bunch of pouches on it. He's wearing dress shoes, actually. Back pocket, it looks like he might actually have nitrile gloves in his pocket, cuffs, asp, possibly OC or something else on the belt that you can see as he's moving around. There's at least a couple of these guys, but some civilians jumped in immediately and were heavily involved in that fur ball on the ground.
A pipe bomb. Footage captured on a camera close to the port before the incident is believed to show the suspect.
So what you have here is a suspect, and I'm just going to point out a couple things. He's wearing a backpack, and he's carrying a bag in hand that has straps, and he's using the drag handle or the carrying handle on the bag. And the bag is like pulled tight, but it's got some heavy in the bottom of it. You can tell by the way it's hanging. That's not just a bag of books or whatever. He's got something of weight in the bottom, stretching the bag a bit. And the way he's carrying it, he's got his arm actually bent at a 90 degree. He's not swinging it. He's holding it up and in front of him. And it's actually kind of breaking his wrist. So there's some weight to the bag. He's got a mask on, not around anybody else. Doesn't mean a whole lot over there because masks are so common. But in a protection role, these are all potential target indicators, at least warranting closer observation, if not contact. Pardon the buffering.
About a minute after Kishida.
Here we have right before the attack, you have the entire scrum, the PM, protection agents, and most likely some cabinet type officials working what's called the picket fence, meaning you have a greeting line formed with the crowd, and there's a line that the dignitary walks past, shaking hands, meet and greet, shaking babies. This guy's watching hands. He's watching hands, and there should be others. You have another one here on the edge of the screen, watching hands for any potential threats coming out of that crowd.
Kishida arrived at the port, the man can be seen walking near the site where the Prime Minister was set to give a speech.
So he circled in wide, eyeballing the target site, working his way in. Now, would have he tried to pull this had there been a more overt security posture? Maybe. It would have changed. It would have changed how he executed his attack, most likely. He walked all the way around and worked his way in from the back. Looking at the faces of the crowd, this is an older crowd. There are some younger people mixed in, but there's a lot of middle to elderly aged people here. Some younger women here behind. I just point that out to just not acknowledge, but to highlight the demographics of the group. And I believe here in a second, you'll actually hear somebody speaking to this.
Some 7 minutes later, the man joins the crowd.
He's fixated on this bag. He's constantly tussling with the bag. Another tell.
He obviously wasn't a local. I've never seen him before. I was wondering why he had a backpack.
Obviously wasn't a local. Now, what Americans don't necessarily understand is that elsewhere in the world where they have more homogenous cultures, even within there, they still have their differences, and they can tell each other apart. Be it different regions, tribes, or different neighborhoods and cities even, because it's so family-based at its core. Family to tribe, or marriages within the tribe or within the clans. I'm not talking recent history. I'm going way back here, but they still have it intermixed with outsiders like we have. So you have people that really look alike in these areas in a lot of places around the world, and they can pick somebody out quickly, just like by looking at how they walk or their hair color, the face, their shape of their face. They can really ID each other. And that's what he just said. He's like, he's not from here. He's different. Why is he carrying a bag? Like, they could say, oh, he's in the barn, he's barn flying right now. He's, in hindsight, he's polishing his story. That's possible. But still, he had made note of this guy at some level to even have that level of recall, because typically an unforeseen attacker, a surprise attack, people haven't not seen the attacker ahead of time or noticed them. When it goes down, their description of the person is not accurate. Not even really to that degree. They'll typically just comment on the sights and sounds around them and more about their own reaction than what this person looked like. So I tend to believe this guy when he says, hey, this guy stuck out. And couple that with the fact what you see here in the video, when it goes down.
Shortly before 11:30 a.m., Kishida moves to the podium where he was to give his speech.
Now, I don't know where this podium's at, but
a cylindrical metallic object suddenly falls to the ground close to him. The man who allegedly threw it was about 10 meters from Kishida.
Bats it away, pushes him away from the blast.
Kishida is quickly
If you noticed, he releases the strap, the latch on that briefcase. It's actually a body shield. It's a folded Kevlar shield. And his role as a body man is protect the principal. And he gets himself in that shield to put as much coverage over that protectee and push him out of the immediate threat area, off the X. Now, yeah, he swatted at it to knock it away. Yeah, he kicked at it. But he really only gave it one shot. Like, he batted at it, kicked at it, and he went to work. And now, was that the right thing? It's what he did. Now, I will say this. Being a bomb, one thing that protects us is distance from the bomb. And when that explosion goes off, proximity to it, the closer we are, the greater the effect of the concussive blast is on us. And any distance we can put between us in that blast, that overpressure subsides considerably within mere feet at times, depending on the size of the blast and your location. But also, you're looking at fragmentary issues. That pipe bomb completely shatters in the explosion. Everything travels radially in a sphere, right? The further from that source of the blast out, the further apart each individual piece of fragment from the bomb casing itself, or included frag or shrapnel, nails, nuts, bolts, ball bearings, the further they spread apart on their own axis, flying away from the bomb. So by creating that distance, you're increasing survivability. Just like getting shot at with buckshot out of a shotgun. The further away, the wider the spread on the shotgun. So yeah, him kicking it and batting at it, trying to get it away helps. Could he have gotten further away by just grabbing him and running? Yeah. Did he kick it back towards a crowd of people? Yeah. If he had been more successful kicking it, it might have gone off in the middle of those people too. So notes. But he did a good job just focusing on the principal and getting him out of there. I don't see any other sign of a detail working in conjunction with that. I don't see a diamond. I don't see anybody body bunkering him other than the body man. I don't even see guys moving to secure safe haven or vehicle egress to the motorcade. Like, I don't see any of that in movement. This is not the type of response you will see from any professional protective details for any of our dignitaries. It would be quite different.
escorted from the scene by security. The suspect...
It hasn't gone off yet. He said about a minute, and then a second later they say 50 seconds. And here he is, like, the ladies are turning like... They turn around to see this guy standing there fumbling with another pipe bomb. Clear pipe bomb. Now, I don't know what he's using to try to set it off here. He looks like he's mashing something with his thumb. Who knows what his system is, his initiator is. That's definitely a pipe bomb. So he threw the first one and it didn't go off. He goes to a second and he's trying to set it off. So was this now a suicide mission, or was he just going get them all out there? Don't know. But he still, everybody turns around and he's standing there fumbling with it. Amazing. Now the people standing around him see this patterned shirt or vest and this gentleman right here. Those are fishermen. These are just guys standing there. One of them being the guy that said he already looked weird. And then he finds himself standing right next to him.
Another device is subdued by officers and fishermen.
Look,
the man
rugby
in the
scrum
vest
fighting over
was
a
one
bomb.
of them.
Look, there he is right there. So this guy already noticed that he was not from there. He looked weird. Why do you have the bags? And then he just happens to be right next to the guy when he throws a bomb and they jump him. Like some switched on fishermen right here. Like they're keeping an eye on him. If he tried anything squirrely, they jumped on him. He whips out this bomb and throws it, and they jump him and start fighting over his second bomb. Studs.
I held him down with all my might. He didn't resist, but he wouldn't let go of what he was holding in his hand. If the bomb he was holding had exploded at that time, I might have been injured, or even...
Yeah, I see the flashlight, the radio, the cuffs. So this guy was in the back of the crowd most likely and came running up from behind to it and jumped in as they saw him tussling up. So there was security around, or plainclothes officers. Still thinking these guys are security. I will say this. He's got a bomb in his hands and you're fighting for the bomb. Just throwing out options there. Why not put your pistol in his ear and just do it? Turn him off, and now we can worry about the bomb in his hand. You got hands on the bomb. If it's pressure release, don't let him let go of it, but don't let him have access to it anymore. Like, he's the threat. Shut off the threat. He's already thrown one bomb. He's got a bomb in a crowd. Like, instead of fighting for it, you got him grounded. You have a safe angle straight down. Anyways.
even killed.
The device the suspect threw blew up about...
Looks like that dude had a katana in his hand. Right here on the edge. I don't know. These. So the guys on the clock actually show up. Looks like they're pushing a cordon or circle out away from him. They're trying to secure this guy. Like they're tussling over a guy holding a bomb. So yeah, they had him grounded at that point. So within 50 seconds, they had him grounded. The first bomb goes off. Wow. I guess these white coat guys, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if those are rain slickers or Tyvek or something. Yeah, it looks like he probably repurposed fireworks or made his own black powder. That white smoke. The blast on it was very reminiscent or similar to an artillery simulator going off, which will rattle you up close. And if you're holding it in your hand, you'll lose fingers. I would say that it probably didn't go high order, meaning it didn't go off as intended. Obviously, the long delay and the fact you don't see people laying on the ground all fragged up. Another note, the elderly were unable to process what was going on, much less evacuate the scene. Who knows if somebody had a heart attack or whatever after this, but those that could flee, they fled. Those that couldn't, they were standing there when the bomb went off because they just couldn't get away and they didn't know how to get away. They turned around and people were standing there. they're caught between the bomb on the ground and the scrum of officers and fishermen beating up the guy. Where do they go? And they have less than a minute to decide and act.
A man near the scene said he felt a pain in his back just after the explosion and suffered a scratch.
It's just a scratch.
Investigative sources said police found a cylindrical object on a fish tank net next to a warehouse 40 meters from the blast site. That indicates it flew past people who gathered for the campaign speech.
So a bomb blows out. Being a pipe bomb with caps on the end of it, sounds like the cap failed. And instead of it being a full high order kaboom with fragmentation, it was more of a kaboom, like a rocket. And somehow nobody else got killed by the steel pipe flying through the air. What if there's some kind of COVID?
24-year-old Kimura Ryuji was arrested on suspicion of forcible obstruction of business.
Oh, that's
Police say he has refused
That's where
to
those
speak
on
to
raids
them.
for DNA or something.
Investigators say they found materials that could be used to make bombs at the suspect's residence. Police have also seized his personal computer and smartphone. The incident comes after former Prime Minister Abe Shinzo was shot dead at a political rally last year.
Yeah, that was a mess. So within a year, you have 2 instances of prime ministers being attacked, one successfully and fatally. The second was a noisy scare. Both times, seeing some lackluster physical security. What is culturally allowable there for them? I mean, I don't know. But both attacks were with homemade weapons, both of explosive nature. Shinzo it was basically a hand cannon, a 2-shot hand cannon, and he had other bigger cannons with multiple tubes. This guy had been trying out some designs, evidently. Yeah. Anyways, I want to show you the actual first video I saw about this, and it's another cell phone camera, but where you get a better view of the device flying into frame. This is what I saw, and you can actually see what video it was up top. It was a Ukraine video, and this popped up at the end of it, like bizarre. Like it had nothing to do with it, but good thing they put it in there because I had no idea this went down. Nothing about this in my feed. Snow Wild. So here's what that video had to say. I'm going to mute it so you don't have to hear all the blah, blah, blah. But here it comes. Boom. He bats it away with the shield. Kicks it. He goes straight to the principal, unfolding it as he went. You see it unfolds. Boom, and he runs. Now, the blur. Who is this right here? We have the prime minister. We have his agents. We have multiple agents that were arresting the attacker. We have the attacker. None of them are blurred. Not faces, or not in part or in whole. No one else is blurred except for this person. And I think it's the other ahead of the meet and greet line at the beginning. You can see somebody is blurred up in the upper left. Why is this person's presence being hidden? Be interesting to know why this meeting was happening and why somebody wanted to stop it. That's what it tells me. Now, does this matter with anything? I don't know. You just had a head of state nearly whacked. And they aren't really talking about it. And in the protection game, and I'm trying real hard with my language here, try not to divulge anything that doesn't need to be divulged. I'm not trying to give any ideas to people. But they need to start getting serious about the protection in Japan. And if they need help with that, there are other agencies with allied nations that would more than gladly help them up their game. But if this was just an isolated attack and there hadn't been a successful assassination within the past 9 months of the previous prime minister, if this was just an isolated event, they have had no other attacks, then okay, hey, we got to ratchet it up, guys. But 9 months ago, a dude walked up in broad daylight in the middle of a large street in a city center in front of cameras and everybody out in the middle of the street and shot the former prime minister in the back twice with a hand cannon. So they've had 9 months and this happens, and they got the body man. He did his job, but is it that hard to have, like, if they had dogs on the outside walking, canines, bomb dogs would have smelled that bag. If they were cordoning off the area for this appearance and they had people going past wands and with dogs standing there in the queue, like, this guy wouldn't have been able to get close. He would have walked off. He wouldn't have done this. Like, the onion peel approach. And they didn't do it. They need to start doing it. And that's just one aspect of it. But good on those fishermen. Really good on those fishermen, man. That's, witness statements being what they were, he remembered this guy stuck out. And I believe that that's his honest recollection and his honest account, because he was also standing right next to him and he jumped him immediately. That all lends credence to the fact that, yeah, he had already eyeballed this guy is weird and out of place. Better keep an eye on him. I think some things are going on in Japan where you have fishermen on the lookout for bad guys. Like, keep in mind, fishermen are out there are doing sea battles with North Korean and Chinese fishing trawlers and spy vessels off their coast too. So it's a different game there. Anywho, I'm Chad. This is me theory. Tried to avoid those, with my background with diplomatic security. I don't want to get too far into the weeds on it, but there's a lot of data, not to overuse that word, but there's a lot of specific things that I just wanted to highlight here with this. This is a very interesting event, a lot to be learned here. And yeah, everybody should be able to improve from this. Fortunately, nobody was seriously hurt other than the guy with his little cut. It might have been a lot worse. He probably just said, "Oh, it's just a cut." And it just translates funny. But wow, what a time. Until next time, y'all be safe. Don't switch off in crowds. Keep your head on a swivel. And yeah, typically people with bad intentions, they kind of stick out in a crowd.